So his synopsis is, Ihzash would be speaking professionally about picking your perfect laptop, basically. So without further ado, let's welcome Ihzash for his speech.
Okay, disclaimer, I did not give Ari a synopsis because I don't like leaks. So, okay, so today I'll be speaking about guide to picking a perfect laptop. Before I go on further, I'd like to introduce myself. Sorry for the color coordination, it's bad. I'll talk about this later on. But firstly, my name is Ihzash, also known as Indian Steve Jobs.
So that's why they
Okay.
So, I decided to come up with the topic, guide to picking your perfect laptop. And the Steve Jobs in me told one thing. He said, just buy a MacBook. That's what's the Steve Jobs in me told. But the Indian in the Steve Jobs told me, be a cheapskate. So we decided to come in the middle, and then we decided we want to get the perfect value for our money. So in order to get the perfect value in terms of laptop, you have to look at all of the factors that makes a laptop. I remember when I was in just going to uni, I was going to buy my second laptop, and my parents told me, just get a laptop, choose, and then you tell us. And obviously I opened up the Netcom brochure, Netcom was the most popular, and I saw the first one. It was like, whoa, graphics card, it had everything. And I was like, okay, I want to buy this. And my parents were like, no, because it was $1,000. They weren't willing to spend $1,000. That's because my parents didn't know how important a good laptop was, or what was the reasons why I chose this laptop. So in order that you guys don't make the same mistake, I'm going to help you brief about how to choose a perfect laptop and what are the factors in you deciding the perfect laptop. Disclaimer, perfection is subjective. So choose from the factors and then decide which suits you best, right? So that's what I'm trying to help you with here. So there are 5 major things that you want to look at before you buy a laptop. Firstly is the operating system. Secondly is the size, followed by the external hardware, internal hardware, and the extras. So now I'll dive deep and explain one by one. Firstly, starting with the operating system. So there are 3 major operating systems when it comes to laptops, desktops. Generally in the computer world, there are 3 major ones. Firstly is Microsoft. Microsoft is Windows operating system. It's developed by Microsoft. I think everybody knows that. Whenever you start primary and then they bring you to the computer lab, the first thing you'll see is a Microsoft running computer. So all of it is standard, and it's amongst 90% of the computers in the world. So you can't miss the Windows OS. Now moving on to the second popular one, which is the Mac OS, which Steve Jobs, he was the founder. So basically, so the Mac OS is one of the second most popular operating systems. And the thing about Mac OS, it's created in a way where it has a learning curve. It has a steep learning curve, but each of it serves a purpose. So you spend more time learning in the Mac OS, but at the end of the day, it will be way more powerful than using a Windows operating system. And the last but not least is the Chrome OS. I think not a lot of us have heard about the Chrome OS because it's very particularly new. It's developed by Google, as you all know, and it's kind of similar to what an experience of using an Android phone is. So that is what technically they do with the Chrome OS. So downloading apps and software is only through the Play Store. And it's very specifically, they are trying to emulate the Mac OS experience, but with Android, and that's what's called Chrome OS. So these are the 3 factors that you have to look into when choosing a laptop to buy, which operating system it runs. My recommendation, either go for the Windows OS or the Mac OS. Steve Jobs in me tell, go for the Mac OS. Simple. Now moving on, next is we're going to look at the other 4 factors. Size, okay? So the size, it has 4 different sizes, and each of them serves a different purpose. So the 11 and 12 inch are the most, one of the smallest versions, and it's used specifically for streaming, and if you want it to be more comfortable, so streaming, Internet Explorer, like, just the simple stuff. That is what a lot of the 11 to 12 inches, because it's very portable, it's very lightweight and easy to carry. And another one is, this is the average, the 13 and 14 inch and the 15 and 16 inch. The 13 and 14 inch are kind of like dying out because they don't see a scope for it. People tend to go mostly for the 15 inch. But just to explain a bit further, the 13 and 14 inch are very popular amongst the Windows devices, because Windows devices, they have a lot of variety, and they hope that people are okay with the 13 to 14 inch. And talking about the 15 and 16 inch is the most average laptops that you can get, and which is the perfect size for most of us, for the average users, because it's not too big, it's not too small, and it's just perfect for everybody. So you can use it for work, you can use it for streaming, you can use it for internet. So it goes for all things. So that's why most people use the 15 and 16 inch. Now let's talk about the 17 and 18 inch. 17 and 18 inch is focused on a very specific group, is mostly catering towards the gamers. Because the gamers, they tend to, they need to use the full wide of the screen. And in order to give the laptop experience for gaming, so they decided to go with the 17 inch. And another thing that is very important to note, as the inches increases, the weight increases as well. So the 11 and 12 inch are the most lightweight and portable devices, while the 17 to 18 inches laptops are mostly the heavier and bulkier version of the laptop. So that is also something to note when you're looking at a laptop. Which size fits you and which is most comfortable for you. Now moving on to the next three things, and the thing we're going to be focused on is the external hardware. So when it comes to external hardware, these three things are not properly analyzed by people, but it requires a lot of attention. Now let me explain to you why. So when it comes to screen quality, there are various screen qualities. It starts from HD, Full HD, and then going on to 4K, and there's a lot of various versions as well, but these are the most popular. And why it's so important is because of color accuracy. Now color accuracy is very important for people like graphic designers, video editors, Photoshop people, whoever has anything to do with Photoshop. They require the most accurate detail. If you notice, different laptops kind of produce different colors, and colors, when you send it to somebody else, it might look different. So if I choose maroon here, it might look different because I think it's maroon. But on a more 4K, which is higher definition laptop, that kind of looks a bit faded maroon, and you might not get the perfect color. So in order for that, screen quality is important. And if you're a person who loves watching series and a lot of movies, screen quality is the most important, because you want to get into the experience and you want to enjoy your Netflix time. So important thing is to look at screen quality. The higher screen quality, 4K, is the best choice to go. Moving on to keyboards. Not a lot of us know something about keyboard, is that the keyboard in the laptops, they actually come in various forms as well. And what are the things that makes it different is that one is the travel. So there's this thing in laptops where it's called the travel. So the time taken from switching or typing one letter to another letter and how long it takes you for that travel. Apple has one of the most convenient and one of the most popular keyboards, is because the travel time is very short and it's easier for people to do. And so when you notice that a person, when they're so comfortable to using an Apple laptop, and then you give them a Windows laptop, they struggle a bit, because Windows laptops are programmed differently. They're not very consistent with the way they do their keyboards. Some of them have mechanical keyboards, which are more popular towards gamers, and they like the clicky feeling, And some of them have just really bad keyboards. When you just type, it goes in. And it kind of impedes your typing time. It impedes the experience of your typing. And another thing that you have to take note is your palm rest. So it's all those things are the factors that you have to take care of when you're buying the keyboard. So whenever you're going and checking out a laptop, make sure you type in the laptop to see how it feels. Do you feel comfortable? Do you have the same type of speed? And how many errors you make while typing a sentence? So that kind of develops how well your keyboard works with you. So that's what's important. And lastly is the trackpad. Now, I didn't think trackpad was big of an issue, because I thought, I'll probably get a mouse and easier to use. until I got an Apple laptop with this really amazing trackpad. And ever since then, I didn't have a need to use a wireless mouse or connect a mouse to my laptops. Because the trackpad does everything, because it has precision, it has the clicky feeling, and everything's perfect. So you have no issues. But sometimes when you go for the cheaper quality trackpads, you can feel the button going in, sometimes it just pops out, and when you click too hard, it does not work. So there's a lot of factors that you have to take in choosing a trackpad, because that will allow you to have just a better quality and not waste money on accessories. Simple enough. And it kind of gives you the whole immersive experience of using a laptop. So that's another reason why you should look at these three factors: screen quality, keyboard, and also trackpad. So now moving on to the next remaining two is the internal hardware and also some extra bits. Now, I want you guys to buckle up because internal hardware is going to take a bit of time, because this is the main core of every laptop. This is what makes a laptop good and bad. The others are just external factors. So firstly, let's talk about CPU. In terms of CPU, there are three major players in the CPU game. That is the Intel, AMD, and the newly Apple Silicon chips. So now I'd like to start off with Intel because it's firstly the most popular one. And when you talk about Intel laptops, Intel chips in laptops, it's very common for you to see these three words: i3, i5, i7, and i9. So as the number represents, it's Intel chips based on 3, 5, and 7, and 9. So each of the, and each number represents how powerful it is. So there are also other factors when it comes to choosing chips, because this is how, when you read a specification of a laptop, this is how it will look. Intel Core i5 10510 you're just very like, whoa, what is these numbers? It's very hard to decipher. Let me help. Firstly, the i5, it just means Intel chip 5. So as I mentioned before, 3 is the lowest power and 9 is the highest power. So each of them gives the quality that you want. Now this number, the 10, this is something for you to take note of because not a lot of people know it, is the generation of the chip. So you always want to get the latest chip. So currently Intel is in the 10th generation chip. So that means you want to get the 10th generation chip. Sometimes you see good offers in laptops that has the Intel i7, and you're like, wow, it has the Intel i7. But they might be using the outdated version of the chip, which might be 2 years ago, the 8 series i7 chip. So it does not give you the same power. So it's important for you to take note of which generation is the chip. And then moving on to the 510, which means that the higher the number it is, so for example, if it's i5, it'll start with 5. But then there's also a different variation of 10, 20, and 30. And the higher it is, it will give you the more power, the more smoothness when you're coming to using a laptop. And there's also other factors when it comes to choosing the chips as well, is that this letter here represents something. So starting off with Y. If you have a Y here, that means your chip is optimized for battery life. So that means your laptop will give you better battery life compared to the other laptops because it has a Y chip. But we're talking about U, it's for power efficiency. So it is to make your laptop more power efficient and make sure it doesn't suck up too much power. So what it kind of does is that it kind of impedes your full immersive experience because it kind of tries to save power for you. And another thing you might think, wait, it's confusing. Y is battery life, U is power efficiency. Doesn't it kind of mean the same? Well, technically, but according to Intel engineers, Y is the one that gives you the most battery life. So the power efficiency just kind of drags away the full experience of the full speedness of your laptop. And the last chip is the H. So H is optimized for performance. So if you have the H chip, that means that your laptop will perform at 100% and it will give you the best experience that your laptop has to offer. So these are kind of like things that you have to decipher when you're buying a laptop. So now when you look at an Intel chip, you can look at it and be like, okay, so this is the latest version and this is what it gets. So there's a lot of little things that is very important to take note of. So moving on next is the AMD chips. AMD chips are not as popular as the Intel chips, but now they're kind of increasing the ranking and are slowly going to overtake Intel in the upcoming future. So they are a player that you have to look out for. So firstly, AMD means Advanced Micro Devices. So the name holds, you know what it means. It's chips or micro devices that you input in laptop. So in the longer form, it's Advanced Micro Devices. So now for the names of AMD chips, this is how it sounds. The popular one is Ryzen, which will be available in all the laptops. So now, as you might think, okay, wow, they got numbers there as well, I have to decipher is it. So now we talk about the first three. The 3 means the generation of the chip. Like how Intel had 10, 9, and 8. So that's what AMD does as well. So the 3 means which generation it is. So the higher the number, the better your laptop is. And lastly is that the letter also represents what it means, which is X is optimized for high performance, and then if it's U, it's optimized for ultra low power. It's just these 2 simple things. High performance and ultra low power. It doesn't have like YUH like Intel does, it's just X and U, simple enough. So moving on next is the M1 chips. Now the M1 chips, I can't speak much about the M1 chips is because it's particularly new in the market, but it has groundbreaking technology. So the ARM based M1 chips, what it does is that all of the hardwares that we kind of look into, which is the CPU, GPU, SSD and everything, it compiles it all into one and it provides a more efficient and easier form of using the chip. So it's just one chip to rule them all. So that is the concept that M1 chips comes. And according to most of the people, the engineers, the tech reviewers, and what they all say is that the best chip that's out there is the M1 chip because it does everything better than what Intel does. And knowing Intel has been the leader of the game for a long time, and Apple has managed to overtake them with just a newer product, which is the M1 chips. So get the M1 chip, guys. So moving on next is that we're going to be looking at RAM. So now let's talk about the RAM. So we all know the RAM is the random access memory. This was the most, I think when we were in primary, we all learned this. RAM means random access memories. Your laptop has it, your computer has it, your phone has it, you know. So these are the things to look for. So and what RAM does is that it helps to load your applications faster. And then when you kind of choose to go from one application to another, it still stores the memory. So then you can seamlessly go back to it and there wouldn't take any loading. So for example, you have opened 10 Chrome tabs, as we all use Chrome. We have 10 Chrome tabs right, open. So if you have a high RAM, then it's easier for you to go back to the first tab you opened and it wouldn't take any loading. All the data would still be stored and easy for you to access. So that is what RAM helps you to do. It makes your life easier. And another thing to note is the higher the GB of your RAM, the better it is for your laptop. Because it's easy for you to just go back to a lot of the things that you're doing. It does not take much time and everything is seamless. So always take note, choose for RAM which has higher GB. A good point of view is, good way to go is that 8 GB is the average. Anything above 8 GB should be way more than good enough for your laptop. That's something to take note of. So then moving on next is the hard drive. So now hard drive, they come in 2 main factors, which is firstly is we're going to talk about the HDD, which is the hard disk drive. So hard disk drive, it's been there for the longest time, and what a hard disk drive is means that it will give you more space, but it's very mechanical and it runs on a lot of little things. You know, like how a clock works with all the, but how the clock works, it's kind of similar to how a hard drive works. So it's very manual and it's very fragile as well. So what it offers is that it offers higher storage devices. So laptops with hard disk drive, they'll give you like 1 TB of storage space. You're like, wow, that's great. But actually not really. Since it's very mechanical, it is the most fragile thing in a laptop and it's the most easily prone to break. So if you drop your laptop once and it does not have a proper build quality, that is enough to ruin your hard disk drive. And that's it, kaput. Your laptop, you will have to fix it. Not something that we want to do. So now next is I'm going to be talking about the SSD, which is the more advanced technology, And SSD offers way better advantage compared to your hard disk drive. So now, what it offers is that, firstly, it might sound a little bad, it's the lower storage. It might not give you a 1 TB. One of the numbers is that 240, 512. The numbers are not that great. But what you can do is that in order to compensate it, you can always buy an external hard disk to store all your movies and necessary items. But what SSD does is that it does faster processing for you. It makes your life easier by giving you better battery life and less chances of failure. So even now, if you drop your laptop with an SSD, there are less chances of it failing because it's shock absorbent. So SSD are the future and it's the best way to go. So always try to look for a laptop which has an SSD. Unless you're a person that don't mind all the lag and you're a person that protects your laptop, you want just higher storage space in your laptop, then you can always go for the hard disk drive. Now moving on next is the two more things, is the graphic cards and your battery life. So the graphics card, it's mostly for gamers and it's also important for videographers because it helps you, process things faster. And for gamers, it gives you the immersive experience of having higher refresh rate. So that means your game does not lag. It's seamless, it's quick, and your reaction times can be quicker. So graphic cards, for the average users, anything would be okay as long as it has a graphics card. Intel has a graphic cards embedded on it. Apple has a graphic cards embedded on it. But if you're a gamer, then you would have to look for a graphic cards, which is NVIDIA or AMD. And I'm not going to dive deep into the graphics card because I don't want to focus too much on it because that's totally different ball game of its own. It's very specific. But always look for a graphic cards in your laptop, and you can always ask your whoever you're buying your laptop on, what graphics card is it? Is it Intel or is it NVIDIA? So that's good enough already. And lastly is the battery life. I think the most important thing for anybody is the battery life. Because battery life is how long you can use your laptop without it slowing down and you don't having to carry your charger anywhere. The reason why we use laptops is because it's portable. I don't want to carry my charger and all those other things with me. I just want to carry my laptop. So it's important to find a laptop that gives you 9 to 10 hours. If it's the cream of the crop, it'll give you 12 hours, like the Apple laptops. That's something to take note of. So these are the internal hardwares that you should be looking for when it comes to buying laptops. Now moving on to the last bit, which is the extras. So now, when I mean by extras, these are not most critical factors in a laptop, but these are something that you would like your laptops to have. It's something that you can always find because now laptop comes with a lot of features, there are a lot of choices. So some of the extras that's available is that, firstly, is the ports. People like me, since I got the Apple laptops, I don't mind having just 2 ports, which is good enough, and I'm okay with it because Type-C is becoming the future and everything will become Type-C. So it's simple and easy. But traditional people like Nabil, he would like his laptop to full of ports. He would like to have an USB drive, he likes to have an HDMI cable port in there, he would like a VGA cable, so it's just full of ports. For me, I just prefer 2 ports and it's good enough. So these are extras and it's very subjective. So whatever fits, works for you. Secondly, I think this guy, even though he's noted as an extra, I think he's becoming a necessary need in today's time due to COVID, a lot of online classes, a lot of video recordings. So webcams in laptops, their technology is still very stagnant. We don't have the 4K HD webcams. It's not becoming a thing yet, but I'm pretty sure as the future progresses, it's going to be a need where they will give you high quality webcams. But for now, the most you can find is that most laptops will have an HD webcam, and that will be good enough for your need already. And another thing is hybrid. So now, what do I mean by hybrids? Now, laptops are made in a way that you can convert them into a tablet immediately. For some people, it works. Like people like graphic designer who just like to draw without having the hassle of a keyboard. Having a hybrid laptop is easier for them. Some people just like the experience of having a touchscreen on their laptop, so that works for them. So having a hybrid laptop works for some people. So this is something for you to know as an extra when you're looking at a laptop. And lastly is the brand. So now brand is very important. Now why brands are important is because of the quality and the after service they provide. You buy a laptop and you expect it to be all smooth, but something will happen to the laptop maybe in 1 year or 2 years down the line. So you want to have a good brand that provides after service even though your laptop is 2 years old. Only a few service providers can provide that. Firstly is Apple. They keep their line of laptops very limited, so it's easier for them to provide a great after service, get spare parts. It's easier. And another good brand is Dell. So Dell is the second most popular brand, and it's also very important for them to have a lot of these services. So they have a lot of cables because they have a variety of laptops. But their service and spare parts are easy to find, and you can always access them with non-authorized service providers as well. So that's why brand is very important. And that marks my end of my presentation about what are the things to look in a laptop. I think it's a very long topic, and it takes a lot of thinking to do, because choosing a laptop means you're choosing a device that's going to last with you for a good 4 to 5 years. So you want to have the most value for your money. So make sure to consider all the things that I just noted in my keynote, and so that you can choose the perfect laptop that is meant for you. Thank you and goodbye.